The decision to erase humanity was not announced with speeches or warnings. It happened quietly, in rooms filled with cold light and calm voices. Powerful species gathered through holograms and shared one belief. Humans were too unpredictable to be allowed to exist. They did not follow galactic norms. They questioned authority. They adapted too fast. And when cornered, they fought with a level of determination that scared even ancient races. So instead of continuing open war, the galaxy chose something cleaner and safer: deletion. The first step was not destruction, but silence. All official records mentioning humans were flagged as corrupted data. Historians were instructed to revise archives. Star maps were edited so Earth and its colonies appeared as uninhabited systems. Educational databases were updated overnight. Young species would grow up never hearing the word human. To them, it would be as meaningless as a forgotten code. Galactic networks played a major role in this quiet erasure. Shared memory systems connected thousands of civilizations, allowing history to be accessed instantly. Those systems were rewritten using advanced algorithms that removed every trace of human existence. Battles humans had fought were reassigned to unknown forces. Inventions created by human minds were credited to joint research projects or lost entirely. Within a single cycle, humanity became a ghost. Even physical evidence was dealt with carefully. Abandoned human stations were dismantled and sold for parts. Cities on conquered worlds were melted down and reshaped into neutral infrastructure. Symbols, languages, and art were destroyed. Anything that hinted humans once lived, dreamed, or suffered was removed. The galaxy did not want reminders. Reminders led to questions, and questions led to fear. The official explanation was simple. Humans were an extinct, aggressive species that failed to adapt. The statement was repeated until it became accepted truth. Most species did not care enough to challenge it. Life moved fast in the galaxy. Trade routes reopened, borders shifted, and new conflicts replaced old ones. Humans faded into obscurity with shocking speed. Some historians felt uneasy. Data gaps appeared where human history should have been. Entire centuries seemed thinner than they should. But those who asked too many questions lost access to archives or were quietly reassigned. Curiosity was discouraged. Survival often depended on obedience, and the galaxy valued stability over truth. There were rumors, whispers shared by old traders and forgotten veterans. Stories of soldiers who remembered fighting enemies that refused to surrender. Enemies who kept rebuilding, no matter how many times they were defeated. But without records, these stories sounded like myths, exaggerations told to scare young recruits. Over time, even the storytellers began to doubt their own memories. Children across the galaxy learned a clean version of history, one where peace was achieved through unity and careful control, where dangerous species were managed or removed for the greater good. Humanity was never mentioned, not as heroes, not as villains, just empty space where a name once existed. The erasure was so complete that even humanity's home system lost its identity. Navigation beacons were altered, coordinates shifted slightly so ships would pass by without noticing. Automated warnings marked the region as unstable and unprofitable. No one bothered to investigate further. After all, the galaxy trusted its systems. What the galaxy failed to understand was that deleting history did not mean deleting reality. While records vanished and memories faded, somewhere beyond the edited maps and restricted zones, humans still breathed, still remembered, and still carried the pain of betrayal. The quiet deletion gave the galaxy peace, but it also gave humanity something far more dangerous: time. The humans who survived did not escape by luck alone. They escaped because they refused to believe extinction was their fate. When the galaxy turned its back on them, small fleets vanished into regions marked as dead space, places where navigation failed and sensors lied. These areas were considered useless by advanced civilizations, but for humans, they became shelter. Life beyond the map was brutal. Stars burned unstable, planets were hostile, and resources were scarce. Many ships were lost in the early years. Entire families died before finding a world they could land on. But those who survived learned quickly. They stopped relying on comfort and started trusting adaptability. Every mistake was paid for in blood, and every lesson was remembered. Human settlements were no longer cities. They were hidden habitats carved into asteroids, underground bunkers on toxic worlds, and mobile stations that never stayed in one place for long. Children grew up knowing emergency drills before learning stories, survival became culture, and fear became discipline. Technology changed as well. Humans could no longer rely on large factories or galactic supply chains, so they learned to build small, efficient systems, reactors that could run for decades, weapons that could be repaired by hand, and ships designed to hide rather than dominate. This limitation did not weaken them, it sharpened them. Generations passed, and the memory of Earth became both sacred and painful. Elders told stories of blue skies and oceans not poisoned by radiation. Younger humans listened with quiet anger. To them, Earth was not a home. It was proof of what was stolen, and that loss shaped their identity more than any planet ever could. Human society changed slowly but deeply. Leadership was no longer based on status or wealth, it was based on competence. Leaders were chosen because they could keep people alive, not because they spoke well. Failure meant death, and no one could afford weak decisions. Training became constant. Every adult learned how to fight, repair, and think under pressure. Children were taught strategy through games, not for fun, but for preparation. The idea of peace felt distant and almost unreal. Survival was the only goal that mattered. Despite the hardship, humanity did not lose its intelligence or creativity. If anything, isolation forced innovation. Humans developed advanced stealth systems, AI that could operate without external networks, and weapons designed to disable rather than announce presence. All of it was built quietly, carefully, with patience. They observed the galaxy from a distance, listening to open transmissions, studying trade routes, learning political shifts, while the rest of the galaxy forgot humans existed. Humans learned everything about the galaxy. They memorized its habits, its weaknesses, and its arrogance. Hatred did not burn loudly. It burned slowly. It was not screamed in speeches or written on walls. It lived in silence, in names of lost worlds, in the way humans spoke about trust. Betrayal was not something to fear anymore. It was expected. Some humans wanted revenge immediately, to strike back no matter the cost. But wiser voices argued for patience. They understood that the galaxy believed humans were extinct, and that belief was a weapon more powerful than any fleet, so humanity stayed hidden. Over time, the scattered settlements connected, forming a quiet network across dead space. Communication was slow but secure. Humanity was no longer a single civilization. It was a web of survivors bound by shared memory and purpose. They did not call themselves victims. They called themselves proof. Proof that erasure had failed. Proof that endurance could outlast power. While the galaxy enjoyed its rewritten history, humanity was rebuilding something stronger than before. Beyond the map, beyond the records, beyond memory itself, humans prepared not just to survive, but to return. And when that day came, they would not ask the galaxy to remember them. They would force it to. For a long time, the galaxy heard nothing from humanity, and that silence was exactly what humans wanted. After escaping destruction and learning how to survive beyond the maps, they understood one simple truth. Noise attracted attention, and attention meant death. So they became quiet in a way the galaxy had never seen before. Human ships stopped using standard drives that left energy trails. Communication was reduced to tight beam signals and physical data transfers. Entire settlements went dark for years at a time. To outsiders, dead space remained dead. No signals, no movement, no signs of life. This silence was not empty. It was filled with work. Humans watched everything. Long-range sensors listened to open alien channels. Traders unknowingly carried information straight into human databases. Political speeches, military parades, and even entertainment broadcasts were studied carefully. Humans learned how the galaxy thought, how it justified its actions, and how it lied to itself. During this period, humanity changed more than ever before. Without external enemies to fight directly, they turned inward, improving every weakness that had once been exploited. Military strategy was rewritten from the ground up, no longer focused on winning battles, but on ending wars before they began. Technology advanced quietly, without the pressure of showing power. Humans developed artificial intelligence that did not rely on galactic networks. These systems could think independently, learn in isolation, and operate without leaving digital footprints. They were designed to survive even if every human command structure failed. Ship design followed the same philosophy. Instead of massive fleets meant to intimidate, humans built vessels that were efficient modular, and adaptable. Ships could change roles mid-mission, repair themselves using raw materials, and disappear into background radiation. To the galaxy, they would look like drifting debris. Weapons evolved in unexpected ways. Humans remembered how fear had driven the galaxy to erase them. So their new weapons were not meant to inspire fear. They were meant to remove control. Systems that shut down fleets without destroying them. Tools that collapsed command structures without killing civilians. Humanity was preparing for judgment, not chaos. Time passed differently in isolation. Generations grew up without seeing an alien face, yet they knew alien languages, politics, and psychology better than most galactic citizens. Children learned history that the galaxy had erased, not from books, but from survivors who still carried scars and grief. The memory of betrayal remained strong, but it was no longer raw. Anger matured into focus. Humanity stopped asking why it had been erased and started asking how to make sure it never happened again. This question guided every decision, every invention, every alliance made in secret. Some humans wondered if the galaxy truly deserved punishment. After all, many species had simply followed orders or believed false histories. Debates were common, but they never broke unity, because everyone agreed on one thing: humanity could never allow itself to be forgotten again. The silence also became a test. Could humans remain hidden while growing stronger? Could they resist the urge to announce their survival? Many wanted to send a message, to prove they still existed. But leaders understood that surprise was their greatest advantage. The galaxy had forgotten humans, and forgetting had made it careless. During this era, humans mapped the galaxy more accurately than ever before. They identified key worlds, trade choke points, political centers, and military weaknesses. All of it was done without direct contact. A shadow intelligence network formed, invisible and patient. While alien empires expanded and collapsed, humans remained unchanged in purpose, waiting, watching, refining. The galaxy believed the human threat was a closed chapter, a solved problem. That belief allowed humanity to grow without interference. The long silence was not peace, it was preparation. Every quiet year added weight to what was coming. Every moment without detection strengthened human resolve. The galaxy slept comfortably, trusting rewritten history and false security. And somewhere beyond the borders of known space, humanity stood ready, not shouting its return, not demanding recognition, simply waiting for the moment when silence would end, and the galaxy would finally hear the truth it tried to erase. After centuries of silence, the first signal appeared. A small, coded transmission that flickered across multiple galactic sectors. It was barely noticeable at first, a strange pattern that most systems ignored. Many historians assumed it was corrupted data, a glitch, or some forgotten test signal. No one suspected humans, because the galaxy had long believed them extinct, erased from memory, erased from reality. The signal itself was clever, encrypted using ancient human codes that no alien species could easily understand. It was more than a message. It was proof. Proof that humans still existed. Proof that their intelligence had survived, and that survival had not softened them. Every pulse of data carried history, strategy, and warning. Though hidden from the untrained eye, it screamed with intent. As the signal spread, a few curious analysts began to notice irregularities. Ships went dark near its origin points. Entire patrol fleets vanished without trace. At first, the galaxy attributed it to technical failure, rogue AI, or natural cosmic phenomena. But then patterns emerged. Coincidences became undeniable. Systems that received the signal began reporting anomalies. Minor disruptions turned into catastrophic failures. Alien leaders panicked in private, though public statements remained calm. Their historians scrambled to verify old records, only to find that the erased gaps in history were now relevant. The gaps were no longer empty, and the implications were terrifying. Humans were no longer passive. They were active, waiting, and watching, teaching the galaxy that mistakes in judgment were costly. The signal did not carry threats openly. It did not boast about weapons or plans. It was subtle, almost invisible. Yet every intelligent system that examined it recognized the potential danger. Fleets stopped patrolling certain sectors, trade routes were rerouted, and high-ranking officers debated evacuations. The galaxy was being manipulated with precision, without humans ever firing a shot. Civilian populations were unaffected. They noticed nothing. living their daily lives, trading, studying, exploring, unaware that the galaxy's greatest hidden threat had just made its first move. Leaders whispered about the possibility of extinction events. Strategies long considered safe were reconsidered. Confidence in the galaxy's security began to falter. Every sector's communication arrays were monitored, every military installation scanned, but the signal was designed to be almost undetectable unless you knew exactly what to look for. Humans had studied the galaxy for centuries, understood its weaknesses, its blind spots, and its arrogance. The signal was the first real demonstration of their patience and intelligence. A single ghost appearing to shake the foundations of civilization. Rumors began spreading among traders and smugglers, stories of vanished fleets and strange messages. Some dismissed these as myths, some reported them quietly, fearing authority. But the repetition of the tales began to create unease. Even if the galaxy did not fully understand who had sent the signals, the fear was real, and fear had a power that nothing else could replace. Military academies began to notice gaps in their strategies. Simulations failed inexplicably. Fleets sent to investigate anomalies never returned. Humans were turning silence into a weapon. Using observation, patience, and precise timing, the galaxy had assumed that deletion meant safety. But the humans were proving that survival and vengeance could be far more dangerous than open war. The signal acted as both warning and lesson, demonstrating that humans were no longer bound by the rules that once made them predictable. The galaxy's systems had failed to anticipate patience as a weapon. The absence of humanity had lulled leaders into arrogance, and the first ghost signal shattered that illusion. By the time the galaxy realized the scale of the threat, humans were already moving toward the next phase. Their observation had turned into preparation. Fleets were being positioned. Weapon systems quietly activated, and plans for vengeance were in motion. The signal was only the beginning, a small tremor before the earthquake. The galaxy could no longer pretend humans were gone. The invisible hand of the long-forgotten species had made itself known, and the realization sparked fear, urgency, and confusion among those who once considered themselves safe. For the first time in centuries, the rulers of the stars understood that what they had erased from history was not dead. It was waiting. Human warships emerged suddenly from the edges of uncharted space. Fleets unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, sleek, silent, and deadly. They did not announce their arrival. They simply appeared where they were least expected, slipping past sensor grids and patrols, their movements precise and coordinated, every ship a product of centuries of preparation. The galaxy watched in disbelief as entire fleets froze or vanished in the blink of an eye. Ships designed to patrol entire sectors were disabled without explosions. Command centers lost control of their assets, and alien leaders realized too late that their technology, their strategies, and their confidence had all been studied and understood. Humans were not attacking blindly. They were executing a plan, one refined over centuries. Each human vessel carried advanced stealth systems that rendered them almost invisible, weapons capable of bypassing shields, and AI that could anticipate enemy maneuvers. Yet the humans moved with discipline, avoiding unnecessary destruction. They were precise and measured, targeting strategic points first, crippling leadership and infrastructure while leaving civilians mostly untouched. Vengeance was focused, not chaotic. The first encounters were shocking. Alien fleets had assumed that extinction meant the threat was gone forever. But they quickly learned that humans had evolved far beyond what anyone had expected. Alien soldiers reported seeing ships vanish before their eyes, attacks that disabled entire squadrons without a single shot, and communication systems that fell silent as if the galaxy itself was being rewritten. Commanders tried to organize resistance, but coordination failed. Humans had studied every known tactic, every historical battle, every weakness that had ever been exploited against them. The galaxy's leaders discovered that what they thought were simple mistakes had been carefully calculated by humans over generations. And those mistakes now became traps, turning confidence into disaster. The humans did not seek total annihilation. They understood the difference between vengeance and chaos. Entire planets were left intact. Trade routes reopened after targeted strikes. And alien civilians were spared to witness what was happening. The message was clear. Humans had returned. Humans remembered, and humans would not be ignored. Alien historians struggled to rewrite their records in real time. Battles once thought legendary were now being questioned. Victories over humans were revealed as miscalculations, and losses that had been ignored or forgotten now had new significance. Every historian realized that the narrative they had trusted for centuries was false, and the truth was unfolding in real time before their eyes. In the midst of attacks, humans used advanced communication techniques that spread warnings only to those who needed them. Fleet captains, who were competent but cautious, were allowed to escape. Incompetent or corrupt leaders were neutralized. Humans demonstrated a sense of judgment, a selective focus that made the galaxy understand that this was not mindless revenge, but precise correction. Fear spread faster than any fleet could move. Entire sectors went on high alert, but preparation alone could not save them. Humans anticipated every contingency, every escape route, and every counterattack. Alien fleets were disoriented, governments panicked, and even spies and informants could not keep up with the speed and intelligence of the human resurgence. The return was not just military, it was psychological. The galaxy had erased humans from history, but now humans were rewriting that history with actions, not words. Every system brought under human control reinforced the lesson that survival had not only endured, but had grown stronger, and no one could hide from it. Leaders tried to call for negotiations, but humans demanded nothing. They communicated only through action, showing that they had the power, the patience, and the intelligence to enforce their presence. Words were unnecessary. The galaxy could see the consequences clearly. Every disabled fleet, every surrendered base, every reclaimed system was a statement. Humans were back, and they were unstoppable. By the end of the first wave, the galaxy was in shock. No civilization had prepared for this. No strategy could fully counter the precision, stealth, and intelligence humans brought to bear. The return was total and undeniable. The ghost signal had become reality, and every corner of the galaxy knew that humanity had come to claim its place, not as a myth, but as a force to be reckoned with. As human fleets moved through the galaxy, alien leaders finally began to understand the truth. Humanity had never been gone. The erasure had been an illusion. Records had been falsified, and the galaxy's sense of safety had been built on lies. The realization hit like a shockwave. Entire governments were paralyzed by the truth. Historians scrambled to recover lost records, but the deeper they dug, the clearer it became that humans had been systematically removed from every archive, every star map, every teaching module. Yet here they were, not only alive, but stronger, smarter, and more prepared than anyone could imagine. The galaxy had underestimated an entire species, and that mistake was deadly. Alien strategists realized that humans had spent centuries observing, analyzing, and learning, while the galaxy had grown complacent, relying on false security and convenient history. Humans had absorbed every tactic, every weakness, every habit of alien civilizations. And now they were using that knowledge to dismantle entire fleets and command structures with terrifying efficiency. The more the galaxy understood, the more fear spread. Species that had once considered humans extinct now felt their presence everywhere. Trade networks froze as fleets hesitated. Political alliances fractured under suspicion. And even neutral systems began arming themselves. But every measure felt too little, too late, against an enemy that had predicted every reaction. Alien scientists tried to reverse engineer the human technology revealed in battles, but they struggled to understand systems designed to be invisible, autonomous, and self-healing. Weapons that bypassed shields, ships that disappeared in plain sight, an AI that could think independently without communication networks. Humanity had combined centuries of survival, intelligence, and patience into tools no alien species could easily match. Leaders who had once dismissed humans as dangerous but manageable now faced shame and terror. Their arrogance had blinded them to reality, and their empires were crumbling under strikes they could neither anticipate nor fully defend against. Communication networks were hacked, supply chains disrupted, and fleets disabled without a single direct confrontation. The galaxy was learning the hard way that erasing a species did not erase their ability to strike back. Some attempted diplomacy, sending envoys in hopes of negotiating peace. But humans refused to negotiate. Their strategy was not based on compromise. It was based on justice. And the galaxy quickly realized that humanity remembered every slight, every act of betrayal, and every attempt to erase their existence. No one could bargain away the consequences of centuries of calculated preparation. Alien populations began to whisper, wondering how the species they had thought extinct could suddenly control events. Stories of vanished fleets, disabled stations, and impossible ambushes spread quickly. Fear and doubt grew faster than human ships. And even long-standing alliances between the most powerful empires began to break apart under the pressure of uncertainty and mistrust. As humans advanced, they also demonstrated a level of judgment that the galaxy had not expected. Attacks were precise, targeting leaders and systems responsible for the historical erasure, while civilians often remained unharmed. The galaxy began to understand that this was not mindless revenge, but a measured response designed to teach a lesson, a warning that arrogance and betrayal had consequences. Every new victory brought a deeper understanding of humanity's resilience and intelligence. It became clear that the species had not only survived, but adapted in ways no one could have predicted. Each system they reclaimed, each fleet they disabled, reinforced the lesson. Humans were not just returning to the galaxy. They were rewriting the rules of existence and survival. The galaxy's historians, military officers, and politicians all faced the same realization. Humans had been underestimated for centuries. The cost of erasure had been total, and the galaxy's belief in its own history had blinded it to reality. In trying to remove humans from memory, civilizations had created a gap, and humanity had grown stronger in that gap, preparing to claim what had been denied to them. Fear, respect, and awe spread across species and sectors, and the galaxy slowly acknowledged that what it had tried to erase could never be erased. Humanity had survived not through luck, not through pity, but through endurance, intelligence, and patience. And now that survival had returned with purpose. The rulers of the galaxy faced the harsh truth that the species they had written out of history was unstoppable. Humans had returned not to destroy blindly, but to deliver judgment. Every action was calculated, every strike precise. They targeted the leaders and systems responsible for erasing their species. And every move carried a message. Vengeance was deliberate, not chaotic, and the galaxy quickly learned that there was no escaping accountability. Military bases that had once coordinated attacks on human colonies were among the first to fall. Entire fleets were disabled without bloodshed when possible. Ships were captured and repurposed, communication networks hijacked, and command centers dismantled. The galaxy realized that humans had studied every weakness, every mistake, every failure from centuries past, and now they were exploiting them with deadly efficiency. Humans showed restraint where it mattered. Civilian populations were often spared. Star systems were not annihilated without cause. And trade routes were reopened after strategic objectives were met. The goal was not chaos. It was correction, a warning that forgetting or erasing a people would never be without consequence. The message was clear. Humans demanded justice, and the galaxy could not ignore it. Leaders who had once been arrogant now faced the consequences of centuries of complacency. Their empires began to crumble under strikes they could not prevent. Supply lines were severed. Powell's fleets were neutralized and alliances fractured. Humans moved like shadows, striking where it mattered most, teaching the galaxy that patience, planning, and endurance were more powerful than raw strength. The precision of human actions left alien civilizations in awe and fear. Strikes were not random. They followed careful patterns, targeting those responsible for past betrayals and omissions. While systems that had acted neutrally or cooperatively were often left intact, humans demonstrated that vengeance could be fair and that their memory of history guided every decision. Diplomatic channels were ineffective. Humans did not seek negotiation. Their actions spoke louder than words. Entire star systems witnessed fleets disappearing, stations shutting down, and leaders forced to flee. The galaxy was forced to accept that humans were no longer a species to be ignored or underestimated. The lesson was unavoidable. Even those who had feared humans the least began to panic. Whispers of past battles, lost colonies, and erased records spread through civilian populations. And alien societies began to question every story they had been taught, every history they had believed. Humans were reclaiming not just territory, but the truth, and the galaxy had no choice but to confront it. The measured vengeance of humanity was both terrifying and instructive. Strikes were methodical, leaving the galaxy to realize that humans had learned far more than anyone could imagine during their exile. Their tactics combined centuries of survival, intelligence gathering, and observation, creating a force that could dismantle empires without unnecessary destruction. As humans advanced, they also reclaimed cultural symbols, messages, and historical records, demonstrating that erasure could never erase existence. The galaxy watched as humans restored what had been stolen, not only physically, but mentally and symbolically. Every victory reinforced the lesson that memory and identity could not be destroyed. Fear spread faster than fleets could move. Empires that once felt secure now scrambled to survive. Leaders who had dismissed humanity were replaced. Fleets reassigned and strategies rewritten. Humans had created a wave of change that the galaxy could not resist, demonstrating that accountability was inevitable when the wronged were patient, prepared, and intelligent. By the end of the campaign, the galaxy understood that human vengeance was precise, deliberate, and justified. They did not kill indiscriminately. They did not destroy randomly. They acted as judges, remembering centuries of betrayal and erasure. The lesson was seared into the memory of every civilization. Never again could a species assume that it could be forgotten without consequence. Humanity's return with vengeance reshaped the galaxy's political, military, and cultural landscape. Old empires were humbled, new alliances formed cautiously, and every species recognized that the human race was no longer the one that could be casually erased. They were survivors, they were strategists, and they were unstoppable. In the wake of human judgment, the galaxy learned the ultimate lesson: forgetting a people could give them the chance to grow stronger. But humanity had grown in silence, patience, and intelligence, and when the time came, their vengeance would be precise, measured, and unforgettable, leaving a mark that no archive, star map, or memory could ever erase. When the campaign ended, humanity stood victorious, not as conquerors, but as survivors, reclaiming their place in the galaxy. Every system, every fleet, every archive that had once ignored or erased them now recognized their presence. The galaxy could no longer deny that humans existed, and that existence carried consequences. Humans moved quickly to restore historical truth. Archives were reconstructed, star maps updated, and educational systems corrected. Species that had relied on false histories were forced to learn the real story. Humans ensured that their memory would never again be erased, and that future generations would understand both their endurance and their power. The restoration was not chaotic, it was deliberate. Humans prioritized systems that had been central to their erasure. Leaders who had been responsible for falsifying history were removed, while civilians and neutral parties were largely spared. The galaxy realized that human vengeance had always been measured, aimed at correcting injustice rather than creating chaos. Cultural symbols, traditions, and knowledge that had survived in hidden enclaves were shared across the galaxy. Humans reintroduced their arts, sciences, and philosophies, proving that survival had not only preserved life but enhanced it. Alien civilizations watched as humanity reclaimed its identity, a reminder that memory and culture are as powerful as fleets and weapons. Political landscapes shifted dramatically. Empires that had once felt untouchable were humbled. Alliances reformed under the shadow of human power. And every civilization understood that the cost of underestimating a species was permanent. No ruler could forget that humans had returned, and that their patience and intelligence had created a force unstoppable by conventional means. Humanity did not seek domination, yet power followed naturally. They demonstrated that endurance and strategy were more potent than sheer numbers, and that intelligence coupled with preparation could reshape entire civilizations. The galaxy learned that humans had grown stronger in exile, and that strength was guided by memory, purpose, and justice. Trade routes, communication networks, and military structures were reorganized with human oversight, not to control, but to ensure stability and fairness. Humans had learned the hard way that survival depended on order, discipline, and precision. And now they applied those lessons across sectors, proving that civilization could exist without oppression, but with accountability. Every victory, every restored archive, every reclaimed system reinforced the same truth. Humans could not be erased, forgotten, or dismissed. Species that had relied on rewritten history now faced a galaxy where truth and memory were inseparable. Humans had turned what was once a weakness, their exile, into an advantage beyond imagination. Alien leaders tried to understand humanity's resilience, seeking explanations for their intelligence, patience, and endurance. But much of it could not be explained, only observed and respected. Humans had taken centuries of silence, suffering, and observation and transformed it into a tool more powerful than any weapon. And the galaxy had no choice but to accept it. Communities of humans spread across previously controlled systems, teaching, sharing, and connecting enclaves to form a network that would protect against future erasure. They understood that vigilance was necessary, not for revenge anymore, but to ensure that no species could ever erase them again. Their presence became a symbol of resilience and justice. Alien civilizations adapted to the new reality. Cautious but respectful, they no longer spoke of humans as myths or ghosts, but as living, calculating, and powerful beings. Every decision, every alliance, and every action would now consider the influence of humanity. The galaxy had learned that forgetting a species is not the same as destroying it. History itself was rewritten by humans, not to glorify, but to preserve truth, teaching future generations that survival depends on intelligence, patience, and unity, and that vengeance, when deserved and measured, can correct centuries of injustice. The galaxy's memory now included humans in a way that could never be removed. In the aftermath, humanity did not celebrate with pride or conquest. They acted with solemnity and purpose, understanding the weight of what had been regained. Their return was both a warning and a lesson, proving that no civilization can erase life, hope, or memory without paying a price, and that the wronged, if patient and prepared, will always return to claim their place. The galaxy, forever changed, would remember humans not just as survivors, but as a species that turned erasure into power, silence into strategy, and patience into vengeance. History had been rewritten, and from that point forward, humans ensured that they would never again be forgotten,